is probably like the third time I got to lecture to Swarthmore College, and I've lectured to a couple colleges: Temple, Eastern, Drexel, Penn. Actually, now that I think about it, well, in events that Penn put together, and we were requested to do training or research or something like that. I need to put my CV together. I just seen that on the job that I was looking at, and it was like, we take CVs, and I was like, somebody told me that, like, yo, you better get your CV together because it's not going to be a resume for you in a minute. So I was kind of like pump faking a little bit. I got to get it together. But, yeah, today was a day. Most of my days are mixed with 1,000 different things. Are we showing these? Are mixed with 1,000 different things. I love it. I don't like to be restricted by anything. If it sounds like some rules or regulations, I'm probably not going to stay around that long because it feels like being incarcerated to me. Even the jobs that I do, I think I do have a problem with communication from that standpoint. It's like I don't feel like I should have to report to every little thing. Either you are entrusting me to do this and I showed you that I have the skill set to get the job or get the position or whatever it is. I don't need you to micromanage me. I'm not somebody that works well like that. and I don't need it. You can look at my track record and my skill set. I don't need you to follow behind me, or I got to keep calling you every 5 minutes to tell you, well, we did this and we did that and we did. Communication is amazing. It has to happen. But I don't need to communicate with you just because we have phones in our hands. I feel like a lot of times that starts happening in leadership, where you start thinking leadership is because you have this phone in your hand and you can keep calling people and what is about this and what is this and what is, and it's like, no, you got to let it materialize a little bit. And I do think that these phones give us a certain level of anxiety that we need to pay attention to. You know, a lot of relationships are living and dying based off of the phone, like almost completely, from somebody not answering the phone to the content that's on the phone to whatever you're watching on the phone that's influencing your thought, and you're bringing that into the relationship that you're in. These phones, oh my stars, we need some, it's a funny thing. We need some classes on phone anxiety, and a lot of different stuff can go into that. And then we need to do some, I've been talking to a lot of women in and around my life about, I feel like black women need to do a nonverbal class. Because 85% of communication is nonverbal, and black women have majority of the nonverbals that I feel like people do come from black women. Whether it's the head, the hand, the sucking of the teeth, whatever it is, most of the, and I wouldn't say exaggerated, but more animated nonverbals come from black women. So I think culturally black women grow into certain movements and things that they almost do just by nature, we would say. But we never take into consideration that those nonverbals, considering they are communication, can be misconstrued a lot before words even come out of our mouths. So it's a way that you could walk in a room and side eye, and everybody will, the women especially, will look at you and be like, oh, who is this? And why is she looking like that? And that's all she did. So I just kind of put that out there. I don't know if the conversation is going to go that way. I don't think it is, because we have a lot of important stuff to talk about. We have a very important person on the show. Shout out to Nick. Shout out to Miles. Shout out to Carlita. Everybody that run around with us all day trying to be superheroes. That's what I like to think. That's what I like to think I'm doing while I'm running around the street helping black people, being a superhero. So we have a lot to get to. This is really, really important because I'm big on equity and the importance of equity and how equity get played with black folk. And ain't equity a house of the way that we supposed to get into capitalism in America? Ain't that the first thing that's supposed to let you get access to all that America has to offer? Ain't that what they told us? And then y'all be doing all this little weird shit to keep us from getting that proper equity. But I have somebody here that explain a lot of this to you. I think it's more so from a wholesaling perspective, right? I read a little piece of the story, and that's what I got from the beginning. Like, this is what wholesalers be saying they doing. So let everybody know who you are.
Hello, my name is.
Are you acting like you scared?
Oh.
Is she acting? Because I've talked to this queen before.
I gotta look at myself.
And it's like, okay, is she a little nervous?
I'm a little nervous, yeah.
So tell us who you are.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And thank you for being patient. I appreciate that.
No, it's no problem. Well, my name is Jennifer Bennett, and I am the broker owner of Perfect Place Real Estate, which is a real estate company in West Philadelphia. We are founded and believe in educating and empowering the community through real estate. That is what we're all about. We are celebrating our 15th anniversary this year, and it's October 26th. We will be in West Philly at the office at 514 South 52nd Street from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. You can RSVP on Eventbrite at PPRE 15th anniversary, and it'll pop right up. But we're just happy that we, that we're still in business. And one of the things that we're having is what he's holding right now is it's a promotional item. We are also publishing a commemorative booklet that will be distributed during the event. And in that booklet contains a number of businesses and supporters of Perfect Place Real Estate who have different services and products to offer. And we're looking forward to people being able to tap into our resources and people being able to, the businesses being able to tap into our audience, our customers, our targeted market, the people in our community. And we're also excited about the people being able to find access. I met a gentleman here today who's a contractor, and we were really looking for some contractors to be in the booklet, because a lot of contractors don't want to be in the book.
Because y'all better stop doing shady business out there.
They want to be.
I don't want nobody to contact y'all, because y'all be taking it all the way to it might be some street stuff going on. I just got to put that out there, because a lot of people have really bad experiences with contractors in Philadelphia. Probably everywhere, but I know for a fact in Philadelphia, like, people literally just walking off with your money. You know what I mean? And that's wild. So I just got to put that out there. Like,
yes, so we do have a gentleman here who is a contractor. He's in there, so I'm excited about him being able to access some of the people who work with us, because I'm encouraging the people who work with us to support the people who are supporting us.
Right.
Because that's how we stay in business. In these type of arenas, one of the things that I really like to share is this idea that a lot of people think that, black people don't support each other, black businesses don't support each other, and that is so untrue. It's not true.
The reason why that is untrue is something that I've talked about a lot, is like, who employs most of the black people in America? Like, most of the black people in America are employed by other black people. If you look at most black businesses, we have all black workforces. Whatever you think about black folk, blackness, Africanity, our unity, not unified, one of the main things that allowed me to know that we are unified in some way is that we employ our own people. Most black businesses are single proprietor, sole proprietor, or you hiring 4, 5, 10 black people. It's very rare you can go in any black-owned organization or definitely own business and see an all-white workforce. I'm starting to see, honestly, more Mexican, El Salvadorian, Honduran folks working for black folk. I am starting to see more of that, but more than anything, we still hire our own people. And then the other thing I would say to that misunderstanding, misrepresentation is we have so many black organizations that saying that we're not unified doesn't really make sense. When we look at fraternities and sororities, I don't want to go too deep into it, but they gave somebody $80 million. That's unity.
That is unity.
That's unity. And we have it. We have motorcycle gangs, real gangs. We have 100 journalists. We have 100 black cops that care. It's so many black this, that, and the third organizations that's all black. The NAACP, I'm saying it wrong, the NAACP, yeah. I'm thinking about basketball, so the NCAAs. I'm trying to make sure I don't mess that up. But they still exist. The Urban League exists. These are black organizations. A lot of black churches still exist. The impact of this unity is what I can question.
Yeah.
What are we unifying behind? I can question that.
Right.
But black people having unity, no, we have to show we do have unity. What is our mission? What is our goal? I see motorcycle gangs and I'm like, what are the purpose for all of these black men to be here in this space with your bikes? I just asked the question.
Yeah, that's true.
So and it's a lot of that with us. We come together a lot. We seek out camaraderie because we need it. We social by nature.
We
you know
are
what I'm saying?
social by nature, and I think that one of the, just as an aside, in my view, one of the challenges you find a lot of mental health issues in the community now is because there has been this disconnect. Whereas people used to go to church, or they would have parties, or they would have fish fry, or play cards, and just get together and gather. And that was a way of maintaining your mental health, on the one hand. But on the other side, there are organizations that are working together. I know there's a gentleman who, his name is Joel. What's Joel's last? Joel Wilson.
Oh yeah, I know Joel.
Yeah.
He do the tech stuff.
Right.
I'm glad you did that for me, because I've been supposed to call him for the last couple of days, because we do a solar ag, and we do it partnership with Swarthmore College, but the students are the ones that do the irrigation part, and it's a lot of engineering and coding in that, but the students may not always be available for how many cohorts we might have going on at any given time. And since Joel does tech, and he has young men that's doing engineering, and he wants the ways to get them employed and stuff like that, I know the Solar Ag Lab, them being able to teach that engineering part of the irrigation is something I want to connect with him with. So you just made sure that I do that, because I swear that's how I know who you're talking about. Exactly.
Yeah.
I've met him multiple times.
Yeah.
I met him through the Fathership Foundation. I'm doing Man to Man, because he's one of Dr. Wilson's good friends.
Yeah,
so I met him like that.
Yeah, he's doing some incredible things. He's doing some other things too. The other thing is, sometimes you don't hear about everything that's going on, because everything doesn't need to be made public.
That's true.
Some things need to be handled.
No, I'm a firm believer in that. Again, because I have stories about that. I've read about, and I like to tell people this so they can understand that it's not always our acumen or our trauma or our being effed up, fixed, whatever you want to say, because I've said all of these things watching and dealing with my own people and dealing with myself at times. You know what I mean? But some of this falls squarely on somebody sabotaging you and attacking you. So you have a lot of black-owned businesses, millionaires, stuff like that, who don't want to be in Forbes. Why? Because they know they're going to be sabotaged by the system. Yeah. I can give y'all examples. I love giving this example because it gives life to what we experience, and sometimes we be thinking it's us. A lot of our young folks go to these schools and get treated a certain way at these institutions, and they think that it's them. And they create this stress when really you're being attacked. Because you're the only black girl in the class, or you're the only Asian person in the class, or you're the only black man in the class. And if you're the only black man in the class, you might be getting attacked by everybody in the class, even your sister, because she doesn't know better. And that's a real thing. But anyway, the point that I was going to make is, like, we tend to forget that a lot of what has happened to us was done to us. Right. It was not a chosen thing. It was done to you. I know a lot of way that we try to take ownership back and be like, no, I shouldn't have made that decision, or I could have just been better, or I know that they're there, but I still have to do. It's like, nah, sometimes you face something you ain't supposed to face, and it goes left, and it wasn't your fault. Right. And the more that we understand that too is a mental health thing. So when you say a lot of things don't need to be said, a lot of that is behind being sabotaged for black folk. Yeah. That sabotage of putting the information out there too soon, and even by your own people, because they may be naysayers or they're not ready for the information, and it's like, we're going to keep this under vest.
Yeah, a lot of it, sometimes it's jealousy.
Yes.
It's jealousy, it's envy, and people thinking, oh, I should have done that. I'll give you a prime example. My, probably like 10 years ago or longer, my kids and I were hanging out at the house, and I was telling my son, you know what, we need to have some wontons with the sayings that black people say in them. Right. But I wasn't thinking about wontons because that was Chinese. I was like, we don't need China. Maybe we need biscuits or something like that, right? So now, this was years ago, like, she can't use your comb, don't bring her home, right? So next thing you know, the other day my son said, Mom, he said me, look at what's on the news. And there was a guy on there, and he sells wontons with black people sayings in them. And he was like, see, that's what you was talking about years ago. But he was the person. You should have jumped on his Instagram and started hating, like, you stole that from me. No, because ideas, people think that ideas are limited, but ideas are really not as unique as we think they are. Because I know people like, I was going to do that thing. See, no, ideas are not as unique as
Right.
we think they are.
At all.
And I wasn't hating on him because he's the brother that got the Chinese, the black Chinese
Oh,
food.
oh, you talking about Down North Pizza?
No.
That is down the Black Dragon joint, right?
Yeah.
Down North Pizza is the ones who opened up Black Dragon.
Oh, that's
Two
the
of them.
same people?
Yes, I just found that out over the weekend.
Oh, okay.
The two Black Dragon restaurants, the guy who's opened Down North Pizza, those are his two restaurants.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Owned and operated by returning citizens. That's what they do there. They hire all returning citizens. He is an owner and operator. He is a returning citizen. He hires all returning citizens. It's a masterful business plan because then you get re-entry
Money.
grant money as well. You have a for-profit business where
Right.
people is going to give you money and donation and funding to maintain a re-entry program. Masterful. I always get a brother his props on that one. And he's expanding, so that's dope for me.
Yeah.
Chef Kurt. There you go. See, somebody got my back. Chef Kurt, that's his name. And I had one of the brothers on the show before. I think he was like the lead chef at the time. This might have been like 2 years ago. So he is doing a lot of great things, but that's who it is. It's actually the brother who owns Down
they're
North
doing
Pizza.
great. And I
Yes.
didn't feel no type of way because, like I told my son, he was the person to bring that product forward because
Right.
he has a Chinese restaurant. I'm a realtor. I don't even cook.
Right. Oh,
You
wow.
know,
No?
I do not cook.
Oh, no, we're not going to get on that. That's
I-
another show about why there's no cooking
my
going
children
on.
cook for me.
Oh, okay. So who told him, though? Like, how did this happen if you don't cook?
Well, they like to eat, so.
So he figured it out?
Yeah,
And
my
then
daughter.
they-
When my daughter was 10 years old, she was watching me cook, and she was like, no, Mom, that's not how you do it." I said, "Well, you think you can do better than me? Then pull that chair up and stand on it and cook." And she cooked. She was like 9 or 10, and she's been cooking ever since.
Oh, wow.
So we all sat
like
down
that.
like, okay,
She's
fine
the
with
one.
me.
It happens. I had a cousin that used to be cooking 8-course breakfasts for us. We was 8, 9 years old. Like, for real. Biscuits, fish, grits, the whole... Nah, it ain't my meat. You know what I mean? We don't know, however.
Yeah,
But
so-
he was 9 and I was 10 or 8 and 9. And this dude can cook his ass off.
Yeah,
Like,
so she was-
Halal Fusion. Who is telling me about Halal Fusion? Who is Devon Zed?
Zaid.
Zaid, I'm banging it up. Don't not support me because I'm banging your joint up. But I appreciate the support. I love when people be in the comments. If I don't always see it because we in conversation, don't think it like I'm ignoring you. At some point, I'm going to hire a young person to just tell me who's up there, tell me what they saying. We can respond to it. So this is a big thing for me because I'm a big believer, knower that Black-owned businesses are a resource in our community.
They're a huge
More
resource.
so than the nonprofit sector, because I believe the nonprofit sector at times gives us, not at times, it actually does give us a false sense of support. A lot of times it is needed,
Right.
but culturally I've been seeing our young people have a dependence on programming that shouldn't be. It should be balanced out. I'm
Right.
not saying programming shouldn't exist, but it should be balanced out. Whereas owning a business, it being yours, you being able to determine everything that you do with that money,
Right.
how you can give back to that community by jobs, donating, investing, having parties, whatever you're going to do, I think that is way more comprehensive than, even though nonprofit is definitely needed.
It's true. That's something that I really wanted to talk about. Even as an aside, during COVID, when I was going around and around to all these businesses,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to go to the bathroom on the real side. And they was like, no, no, you can't come in here. You can't come in here. All I can think about, I can't wait till I get back to West Philly so I
Right.
go to ACAP. I can use their bathroom. And it was sometimes, it's just as simple as that. It's just being able to have a door open to people who doors may not have been open to.
Exactly.
Even for me, myself, everybody knows my story. That I don't want to get too deep into it, but basically, I was living in a house that was abandoned, and the owners had intended to give me the property through a city program, and they reneged. So I just stayed there, and I was like, so I'm kind of like, just hanging out. It's not my house, but I'm here. So
Right.
I had 3 children
Right.
by that time. They were young. I had 1-year-old, 3-year-old, and 4-year-old. 1-year-old, 1.5, 2.5, and going to 4. So I was living in this house, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can stay here legally. And I was writing for a newspaper also, and I was coming down 17th Street, and I saw a sign at a real estate office that said agents wanted. I didn't really go there to be an agent. I went there to see and ask if I could stay in his house legally.
Right.
So I met a very kindly gentleman, the best guy in the world, up to date. And I told him about my situation. I said, I found this house, and the people said they were going to give me the house, but they don't answer my calls anymore. So what should I do? And so he had a conversation with me about adverse possession, ownership by prescription, and all of that. And so, okay. And so after the end of the conversation, when I was about to leave, he handed me his business card, and he wrote the name and the phone number of a real estate school on there. So that's how I got into real estate. And I thank him every day because he really changed my life. Like literally, he changed my life, not only mine, but my children. All 4 of my children are licensed agents with the company. And I have 13 other agents that are actively working at my office. And I just felt like, wow, this guy, small businesses' ability to open their door to people within the community on whatever level is needed is just, it's really profound. I think it's more profound than people really realize.
Nah, for real. And it's, like I said, I always, that's one of the things of the show. Like, yeah, we bring folks on here that provide service. But I probably haven't said it a lot, but you can go back and look. I would tell people, like, I want black-owned businesses on here because they are a resource. They're the resource because you have ownership in this community. Like, literally. You have ownership. You can truly dictate what goes on in this community, and people who come to the community, they come to you. Right. Now, they might try to play around with you. You might not know no better, but they come to you because, why? You're somebody that actually has real stake in this community and can speak. Politicians come, they talk to business owners. How can we make this business better? Right. Not necessarily how can we take care of the people in the community, but because we don't know if they are real stakeholders or not. We don't know if they are all homeowners or not. We know that you own stake here because you have a store. Right. It's clear to see you have a business out here that's providing something and you have a say in the community. They go to those people first. If you notice, the Dominican store gets more attraction and attention about what's going on in the community than the people who have lived there for 30 years. Because they know that this Dominican store has ownership. And not only do you have ownership, because of this, you have sway over people. If you own a business, you have sway over people in this community on a lot of levels. There's meetings that you get called to as somebody that owns something in this corridor that they tell you stuff about the community that they don't tell the regular rank and file folk.
That's true.
That's just one.
Right.
It's a lot, but that's just one.
That's even deeper than that because I met a gentleman who had a store called the Herb Nook on 48th and Spruce years ago.
I remember it. My mom used to go to that.
And his name was Ron Norwood. Yeah. And much respect. And so I was talking to Ron one day, and he was telling me that one day 2 young boys came in his store. They were like 9 or 10. And they kind of peeped in the door, and they looked at him, and they looked at each other, and they looked at him, and they said, "Who owns this store?" And he said, "I do." And they looked at each other in disbelief. And they asked him again, like, you own this store? And he said, "Yeah." And they couldn't believe it. He was like, they were just looking at each other like, how could a black man own a store?
Yeah. That's how James Brown was looking at Don Cornelius when he found out it was all Don. I always want people to go look at that documentary from VHS. What is VHS? Yeah, VH1. Yeah. It's always, please go watch it. It's just that one part when he talk about James Brown coming on there and walking around seeing all these black people doing everything and keep coming back to Don like, "Don, this all you?" And you're like, "Yeah, James, this all me." Because in that time, and most times it's like some Jewish backers, some Italian people, it's some white man. And then we even start turning that into a business model where it's like, I have to have some type of white partner in order for me to do business at any level, especially at a high level. But when you said that, it reminds me of that. I always be tripping out on that, like, yo, he really was like, "This all you?" And he like, "Yeah, James, please go watch the documentary. I'm telling you, you're going to love that part because it is crazy because it be like, are you, like, yo, this is nice." He said he come back to him like 4 times, perform, come back. "This is nice, man. That's all you?" Southern drawl, whatever. And that's like a funny thing. But I think to that point and to those babies' point, the other thing that being a owner in our community does is it stops that inferiority complex that we have. That's why those babies was looking like that.
Yeah, sure.
And it's taught very young. We think that that racism and all of that good stuff doesn't affect us at these ages. I don't know how old those babies were, but it starts early.
It's early,
The
definitely.
disbelief that a black person can own something, that's wild.
It's true.
And Ron is not back from 1960 or 70. You know, Ron, this story that she's talking about is not from the 40s, because, you know, people tend to be like, oh, that's probably talking about the 50s or the 60s, right? That's how the kids, no.
Yeah.
This is 90s. I think Ron closed, you know, like mid-90s, late 90s.
Not that long ago.
Yeah, late in the early 2000s. I say in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
And I do know him personally because my mom really used to go there. I think my mom knew Ron since we lived in North Philly, before we even moved up here. And then she found out his store was on 40. I don't know where she actually knew him from, but my mom was taking herbs in the 80s. Mm-hmm. When I used to be like, they robbing you. That's some fake stuff. Take the white man's drugs. I did. I'm not lying to y'all. Like, the white man's drugs, they're playing games with you. That's not real stuff. Herbs, and now look at me. Mm-hmm. You better not take a white man drug around me.
Well, I just want to share another thing that
yes,
since I moved into the office on 52nd Street, mm-hmm. I started a nonprofit organization, my daughter and I, and I really wanted the business to be a place where young people in the community could come mm-hmm. and feel like this is their space. Mm-hmm. And so we started the organization. This story is funny how I got the kids. I don't think I'm going to tell that. But I'll tell that. I'm going to tell that at the event.
All right. Off camera. We going to need to know off camera. We need to know. I'm sorry.
I don't want to tell that story. I don't want that recorded.
Right.
But they used to come to the office every day after mm-hmm. school, and they would go and get on the computer. They would get their headphones, and they would sit down, and they would say, "This is my office."
Right.
And they were around 7 mm-hmm. to 12, I would say, 7 mm-hmm. to 12. And in fact, some of them are still with me. One of the young ladies who I brag about all the time.
Right.
She has her partner and they have an organization called Built by Experience. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they create these self-care environments mm-hmm. because they're young women who have experienced a lot of challenges in their life.
Abuse to prison pipeline. I want women to start understanding that is a real thing. Like how they say the school to prison pipeline, and it more tends to lean towards boys, but not now, because our young women are getting expelled at an alarming rate, and that's leading to them being incarcerated as well. But a term that a woman, I can't remember her name, unfortunately she wrote a book and I seen this in it, and it's called Abuse to Prison Pipeline. Young women who, because of abuse, and what the response to that abuse is the fighting, is the pulling up, is the punching and tearing stuff up and cursing everybody out, winding up in the county. And now that's becoming something that's a rite of passage for girls. I don't know how it's really becoming a thing like that. So abuse to prison pipeline is a real thing.
Wow. So they're still with me. Mm-hmm. And there's another few stories. But the point of my conversation is that the presence of certain businesses within communities mm-hmm. that have their door open to people within the community, it makes a major change in people's lives. I know that he made a drastic change in my life. And I have another gentleman who used to come in my office who was kind of, he was living this other type of lifestyle, let me just say it like that, And just by him interacting with the company and with me and with the people around us, he's totally changed his life.
Identity. She taught him some level of critical thought.
No, I didn't teach him.
You did?
No, I didn't.
Real estate didn't teach him that?
No.
In no way?
No.
You didn't do anything in this part?
I did. All I did was open the door. That's it. At the end
and he learned some level of critical thought about the importance of ownership in the black community. That's critical thought.
No,
it is. We need to understand outcomes. Well, what does it look like when you own some stuff?
Okay, maybe you're right. I'm not telling the whole story either,
okay.
To be fair.
So I do want to ask this before
we are going to talk
to
about home ownership.
Yes. So before I need to know this, because I already know what it is, and you'll put the home ownership importance in it. But why do you do what you do for this long, 15 years?
Well, actually, it's been 20.
Longer than that, but this is what she put on the.
I've been in real estate for 24 years.
Okay.
I was a homeless woman. I was in postpartum depression. I was in a situation that was violent in my home, and I left and I didn't have somewhere to stay. I stayed with I stayed with family members. I stayed with friends, and I had 3 young children. When I moved into that house, that, and I was able to get on this path of this real estate journey, that has changed my life. And that house changed my life, because when I went to this particular house, I was on the way to over the edge. And when I renovated this house was abandoned. And when I renovated that house, I rejuvenated myself, and I rejuvenated my spirit, my self-esteem, my life. That house literally changed my life and the life of my children. So I felt like, I got to get other women, and people with children to buy a house. Own where you live. Because when you own where you live, there's all of these benefits that even intangibles, besides gaining equity, having access to capital, which we're promoting more now. But just owning a home and raising children in a home that's owned, it helps them to be more successful in life. Because studies have proven that children who are raised in a home that is owned by their parents, they graduate from school more often. They have less problems in school. They don't get pregnant as often. They graduating from college. They become homeowners earlier. There are all of these, these intangibles that come along with owning a home. And for children to be able to be raised in a secure environment. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to help other people and other women to have security, because a lot of times people rent and they're like, oh, I don't want to rent because I don't want to be bothered, because I'd rather have the landlord take care of it and all of that. Well, at the end of the day, the challenge is that eventually, especially in Philly now, if you look at all of the new development that's happening, majority of it is apartments.
Right.
I don't know if people are really paying attention
it's
to
not
that.
Homes.
Do you understand that they're building apartments? They're not building a house for you to buy. They're building an apartment for you to do what? Pay them. So when people say, I don't want to pay a mortgage, you're paying a mortgage. You're paying the landlord's mortgage for years. Because I had a client who lived in a house in Southwest, I don't want to say it, somewhere on Greenway, for 40 years. But because they were only paying $400 a month, they thought they were winning. But then at the end of the day, if you look at a house in Southwest 40 years ago, guess how much he paid for that house?
Probably like $5,000-$10,000.
Exactly. You already paid for that house like 4 or 5 times over. Yeah. So now when a landlord, now that the property values are here, they're not where they were when he bought the property. Now the landlord says, oh man, I can get how much for this house? Okay, $400 a month. See you later, bye. So now I told them, you guys could have bought a house 10 or 20 years ago. For 40 or 50,000, that would be worth 200,000 now.
Exactly. So
I don't think that we really understand the value of owning a home. And a lot of people don't think they can do it either. Because people are now is the best time to buy a house, from the perspective of there's tons and tons and tons of help for people to buy a house now. They're giving people $10,000, $25,000, $30,000 to buy a house. They weren't doing that before.
I need that.
They weren't doing that before. They were doing it when they were doing it before. It was just a hustle. It wasn't real grant money. But now they're giving. I have a lady in the office. She bought a house. She got $30,000 in first-time home buyer grants. She went to the table with no money. She even went home with a check, which you could do that back in the days of milk and honey, right? But you can do that now.
First, the Philly home buyer thing, is that a good thing to get into?
Now, before y'all get into this conversation, y'all know we are 5 minutes over time.
Okay.
So I'll again tell us what's going on. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. We needed more. That was my fault. That's definitely not your fault. I'm gonna have to bring you back. So real quick, let us know what is going on. What's the 15th anniversary? Oh yeah, my bad. I apologize. With the 15th anniversary and what's the name of the
Perfect
company?
Place Real Estate is celebrating 15 years in business. We are having an anniversary celebration and an awards. We want to give awards to some of the people who have helped us along the journey and been a support for us. So we're giving awards and recognizing people, even some of the people that are not with us anymore. We're recognizing them too.
So we need to recognize this young lady right now, because she has to come back on the show. We need to get a little bit more deeper into the buying and selling how that whole process goes. She talking about you can get checks and leave with checks and all that. But listen,
Not that much.
This is PSA Philly Service Announcement. Takeover Tuesday, Takeover Love, Support, Grace, Social Activism, Resources, and Art. I am the assist. Shout out to everybody in the world. I love black people.
Thank you.
That's
for
what we
letting-
doing
thank
out
you
here.
for-
I'm out.
Oh, you can reach us too at perfect